I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
I see people all the time who I know they wouldn't have gotten A+s on, their calculus exams, but they're incredibly smart.
Hey there! If you're looking for the motivation to start getting more done with your life, listening to motivational speakers is a great way to get started. Subscribe to us for endless motivation.
I want you to leave here today thinking about what is the dream for you? What is God's dream for you? What does the Creator's dream hold for you? So often we spend our lives wishing and hoping and hoping and wishing and desiring things. This is what I know for sure. You don't get what you wish for. You don't even get what you hope for. You get what you believe. So what is it you believe and know to be God's dream for you? So I live in the dream. I'm living in the space of the dream. And dream's good, dream's good. The dream is greater than anything that I could have imagined. This is what people don't know, because you can't tell everybody. I am who I am. One black woman, my hand in God's hand, trusting in that word, because that word never failed me. And I got to where I am, and I stand as I am, as Maya Angelou often says, and often said, and says in her poem to our grandmothers, every time you see me, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. Every time you see me, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. So it's just not me standing up here. It's my mother, my grandmother, her mother, the mother before her, her grandfather, every uncle who prayed, every sister who cried, every aunt who sacrificed, those whose names made the history books, those whose names never could make the history books, who allowed me to come as one and stand as 10,000. So oftentimes when I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and I can't see another black face in a 50-mile radius, I stand and sit at the boards as one, but I'm bringing the 10,000 behind me. Because I not only know who I am, but I also know whose I am. And so anything you hear about me that feels good, sounds good, you think about, I wonder what Oprah's doing, how's she doing? I am living the dream. And I want you to live the dream, because I'm not living the dream because I'm special. I'm living the dream because I was obedient to the call of the dream.
When the stock is up 30% in a month, don't feel 30% smarter. Because when the stock is down 30% in a month, it's not going to feel so good to feel 30% dumber. And that's what happens. The great quote that Warren Buffett brings up all the time, but Benjamin Graham said, which is in the short run, the stock market is a voting machine. In the long run, it's a weighing machine. And what you need to do is operate your company in such a way knowing that it will be weighed one day, and just let it be weighed. Never spend any time thinking about the daily stock price. I don't.
Okay, so as a result of going up 70% this year, you have become the wealthiest man in the world. Is that a title that you really wanted, or not? Is it a burden?
I can assure you I have never sought that title. And it was fine being the second wealthiest person in the world. That actually worked fine. I would say it's something people naturally are curious about. It's a kind of an interesting curiosity, but it's not the thing. I would much rather if they said like, inventor Jeff Bezos, or entrepreneur Jeff Bezos, or father Jeff Bezos. Those kinds of things are much more meaningful to me. And it's an output measure. If you look at the financial success of Amazon and the stock, I own 16% of Amazon. Amazon's worth roughly $1 trillion. That means that what we have built over 20 years, we have built $840 billion of wealth for other people. And that's really from a financial point of view, that's what we've done. We've built $840 billion of wealth for other people. And that's great. That's how it should be. You know, I believe so powerfully in the ability of entrepreneurial capitalism and free markets to solve so many of the world's problems. Not all of them, but so many of them. A lot of people are very interested in homelessness, including me. A lot of people are very interested in education of all kinds of interest, you know, both kind of college scholarship type education, but also apprenticeship programs, or you name it, and people are interested in education. I'm very interested in early education, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My mother has become, in running the Bezos Family Foundation, she has become an expert in early education. I'm a student of Montessori schools. I started at Montessori when I was 2 years old, and the teacher complained to my mother, the Montessori school teacher complained to my mother that I was too task focused and that she couldn't get me to switch tasks, so she would have to just pick up my chair and move me. And by the way, I think that's, if you ask the people who work with me, that's still probably true.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. When I was about 8 years old, I grew up in the church, and I was going to one of those Women's Day, you know how we have church all day long. I've been to Sunday school, and then and then afternoon they were having a women's tea from the women's board, and they were having a tea, and the little girl that was supposed to be there to do a recitation had gotten ill. And so they said to my stepmother, we need a little girl, can Oprah come back and do a recitation this afternoon? My stepmother said, yeah, I'll have her back here this afternoon. So this, church ain't over to 1:30. So by 4 o'clock, I had gone home and learned to recite Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Now, it starts out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. I was reciting it and doing the pit from pole to pole. I didn't know what I was saying. But at the end of the poem, there is the stanza that says, it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Now, my little 8-year-old brain didn't really fully understand the power and depth of those words, but they sounded good enough for me to write them down and put them on my mirror. And those words, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, became a mantra for me. What it said is, I am responsible for the choices that I make in my life. I am responsible. I am responsible. So obviously I grew up and was better able to articulate what those words really mean. And I discovered in physics class, those of you who remember physics, the third law of motion. You remember what that is? The third law of motion in physics says, for every action, it's called Newton's law, and it says for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So what does that mean? That means everything that you are putting out into the world, every action, bam, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It means no matter what you do, the energy of what you do, what you say, and most important, the energy of who you are is going out into the world, into your home, into your relationships, and that energy is always coming back to you. You are responsible for the energy that you are pulling out into the world, because that very energy, bam, is coming right back to you every single time, whether you believe it or not, because it is law. It is law. It is law that what you put out into the world is coming back. Now, in our country and many countries all over the world, they call this the golden rule. They say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The truth is, whatever you do is already done. The truth is, so when I learned this, that I am the person who gets to control what comes back to me based upon what I'm putting out. That's law. That's not just some words that Alice Walker wrote. That is law. Everything you try to do is already done.
Jeff, let's talk about how you came to the situation where you are today. So you grew up in Texas initially.
Yes. I was born in Albuquerque.
All right.
But I left when I was 3 or 4 and I moved to Texas.
You moved to Texas, and from early age, were you a pretty smart student? And your teachers tell you this, you were good, or?
I have always been academically smart, and by the way, the older I get, I realize how many kinds of smart there are. There are a lot of kinds of smart. There are a lot of kinds of stupid too. But there are, I see people all the time who I know they wouldn't have gotten A+ on, their calculus exams, but they're incredibly smart. But yes, I was a very good student.
Right. So you ultimately moved to high school in Miami.
Yes.
And then you were valedictorian of your class.
Yes.
And then you gave a speech as the valedictorian saying you thought we should colonize space or something like that?
I did. It was 1982. I graduated from high school in 1982. Big public high school, Miami Palmetto Senior High, go Panthers. And there were 750 kids in my graduating class. And I loved high school. I had so much fun. We had, I lost my library privileges because I laughed too loudly in the library. And
what about that laugh? Where did you get that laugh from? It is distinctive.
I've had that laugh all my life. There was not that short, there was a multi-year period where my brother and sister would not see a movie with me because they thought it was too embarrassing. But I don't know why I have this laugh. It's just, and I laugh easily and often. The people who know me, you ask my mom or anybody who knows me well, and they'll say, if Jeff's unhappy, wait 5 minutes. And I can't maintain unhappiness. I guess I have, good serotonin levels or something.
So you graduated as valedictorian. You decided to go to Princeton. How come you decided to go to Princeton?
Because I wanted to be a theoretical physicist. And so I went to Princeton, and I was a really good student, as I pointed out already. I got A+ on almost everything. I was in the honors physics track, which starts out with 100 students, and by the time you get to quantum mechanics, it's like 30. So I'm in quantum mechanics. I think this is like junior year, and I've also been taking a bunch of computer science classes and electrical engineering classes, which I'm also enjoying. And I can't solve this partial differential equation. It's really, really hard. And I've been studying with my roommate Joe, who also is really good at math. And the two of us worked on this one homework problem for 3 hours and got nowhere. And we finally said, we looked up at each other over the table at the same moment. We said, Yo Santa, because Yo Santa was the smartest guy at Princeton. And we went to Yo Santa's room, and he was Sri Lankan. And in the Facebook, which was an actual paper book at that time, his name was 3 lines long, because I guess in Sri Lanka, when you do something good for the king, they give you an extra syllable on your name. And so he had a super long last name, the most humble, wonderful guy. And we show him this problem. And he looks at it, he stares at it for a while, and he says, cosine. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that's the answer. And I'm like, that's the answer? And he's like, yeah, let me show you. So he brings us into his room, he sits us down, he writes out 3 pages of detailed algebra. Everything crosses out, and the answer is cosine. And I said, listen, Yo Santa, did you just do that in your head? And he said, no, that would be impossible. 3 years ago, I solved a very similar problem And I was able to map this problem onto that problem, and then it was immediately obvious that the answer was cosine. And that was an important moment for me, because that was the very moment when I realized I was never going to be a great theoretical physicist.
There is a bigger dream for you, Essence. There's a bigger dream. And so the key, the secret, the magic is to surrender to God's dream for you. To quit fighting against and pushing against and disallowing against and resisting against and trying to tell the Creator, the universal forces, divine intelligence what you are supposed to do, and get still and know for sure what His dream, the dream, is for you. When I was a little girl, my father, on Sunday mornings after church, he was a deacon, so he thought he had to say goodbye to every single person. We were the last car leaving the parking lot in the green Oldsmobile. And we would drive through the white people's neighborhoods. And I used to dream the dream, driving through the white people's neighborhoods. We'd drive through the white people's neighborhoods and you'd see their fancy houses. Some of them had gates, but all of them had trees. And I remember when I first came to Baltimore, I met a friend. I made friends with a wonderful woman named Arlene Weiner. She was the wealthiest person I'd ever met. And I went to her house and parked in the driveway. There was a Corvette and there was a BMW and there was a Mercedes. I went, whoa, Arlene's rich. And at Arlene's house, once I got inside, I could see from her kitchen window 6 trees in the front yard. I thought, oh, rich people have trees. When I get rich, I'm gonna get me some trees. I'm not just gonna get me, everybody wanna get cars and pocketbooks and shoes, but I want me some trees. So, as life would have it, I was standing in my kitchen window about 3 years ago in California, making coffee in the morning, and I was looking out the window and I saw the 6 trees. But listen to me. I was making the coffee. I saw the 6 trees. I went out on the porch to actually count the 6 trees. And this is what I noticed. That I could dream the 6. But beyond the 6 trees in my kitchen window are 3,687 trees. How do I know? Because I had them counted. I had them counted. So I said, I want to know how many trees out there. I dreamed the 6. That's as much as my small mind and my imagination could hold for myself. I dreamed the 6, but God can see beyond the 6. Can see beyond the 6 because there was a bigger dream for me.
Everything I've ever done has started small. Amazon started with a couple of people, and Blue Origin started with 5 people, and the budget at Blue Origin was very, very small. Now the budget at Blue Origin approaches $1 billion a year. And next year it'll be more than $1 billion. So in Amazon, it literally was 10 people. Today it's 500,000 people, but it's hard to remember for you guys, but for me it's like yesterday. I was driving the packages to the post office myself, and hoping one day we could afford a forklift. And so for me, I've seen small things get big, and it's part of this day one mentality. I like treating things as if they're small. You know, Amazon, even though it is a large company, I wanted to have the heart and spirit of a small one. And so anyway, the day one foundation is going to be like that. We'll wander a little bit too. So we have some very specific ideas of what we want to do, but I believe in the power of wandering. All of my best decisions in business and in life have been made with heart, intuition, guts, not analysis. When you can make a decision with analysis, you should do so. But it turns out in life that your most important decisions are always made with instinct, intuition, taste, heart. And that's what we'll do with this Day One Foundation too. It's part of that Day One mentality. As we go about, building out this network of nonprofit schools, we'll learn new things and we'll figure out how to make it better.
So one of the decisions that you are doing,
and the customer is going to be the child. This is so important because that is the secret sauce of Amazon, where there are several principles at Amazon, but the number one thing that has made us successful by far is obsessive, compulsive focus on the customer as opposed to obsession over the competitor. And I talk so often to other CEOs and some other CEOs and also founders and entrepreneurs, and I can tell that even though they're talking about customers, they're really focusing on competitors. And it is a huge advantage to any company if you can stay focused on your customer instead of your competitor. So then you have to identify who is your customer. So at the Washington Post, for example, is the customer the people who buy advertisements from us? No, the customer is the reader. Full stop. The customer is the reader. And then, by the way, where do advertisers want to be? Advertisers want to be where there are readers. So it's really not that complicated. It comes around really well. And in the school, who are the customers? Is it the parents? Is it the teachers? No. It is the child. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to be obsessively, compulsively focused on the child. We're going to be scientific when we can be. And we're going to use heart and intuition when we can.